Just going to do a rundown of the cats that I have now. There's Goldie, who is 14. She's a ginger cat. And her sister, Tabby. Unfortunately, their other sister, Gingy, actually was killed on the road here. So that was really sad. Recently, yeah, Goldie had this weird thing on her face. She looked like she'd been punched in the face. Quite frankly, her nose and around her mouth. But I didn't know if it was from an injury from something or if it was even possible skin cancer. But the vet thought that it was actually a virus caused by contact with rodents. We've had them since kittens. Tabby recently, she was injured in a fight with Black Cat, and she had a cat bite. It turned into a massive abscess, which she had to be hospitalised to. Lucy, who is a boy, so I call him Lucy Boy. I've had him about 7 years. I don't know how old he is. He's like a Norwegian, long-haired tabby. He actually came from the same place as where all the dogs came from, which was like a goat farm sort of place. The guy was moving and he was going to just leave all these cats, and there were about 15 of them. He actually took all of them in. Some of them I kept because 2 were obviously already in a quite bad state. And when they were tested, they were found to have feline leukemia. And basically after that, I was having them tested. Another one was also diagnosed with that. There's no cure, and it's a really horrible disease. When it takes hold, basically that's it. It's fatal. Wampa, an angel, unfortunately didn't last very long. The other one that had it was Benny, who was actually a girl. And yeah, she lasted a few years. Unfortunately, then it took hold of her. The rest of those cats, we rehomed one to someone that we knew, and the rest, gradually, I managed to get the SPA here, which is like the equivalent of the RSPCA in the UK. I managed to get them to take 1 or 2 at a time, and it was impossible. It was just impossible with the cats that we already had to keep all 15. I mean, it was out of the question really. So although it was difficult to let them go, I had to let some of them go. Who else is there? Well, there's Charlie. We found him as a kitten. He recently was badly injured from fighting with Black Cat from the last video. And it actually turned out he had a lump on his side from something, and he actually had a thorn in his side. And it worked its way in, and it created this big lump. It's a big operation and a massive scar of like 6 inches, because it all had to be cleaned out and had to make sure that they'd got everything. There's the kittens. There's Harry, who's a few years old. He's ginger. I call him a kitten because he's still quite small. But he was one that I found out in the snow. Basically, it was freezing, and he was a little kitten out in the snow. In the following year, I found Bohemian. He was a little kitten in the garden. Again, him and Harry are like best friends, really. Although Harry does love dogs, he loves Piggy. And I used to have a dog called Wolfie, who had cancer, and when he was ill with it, Harry was a kitten, and Wolfie and him became like best friends, even though Wolfie has spent his life chasing cats, if he got the chance. It was a strange thing to see. But Harry's always looking for a dog friend. Unfortunately, most of my dogs don't get on with cats, so yeah, Piggy's one that will tolerate them most of the time. June last year, I found another little kitten in the garden. Just heard this meowing. It was this tiny little kitten, another ginger one who's very similar to Harry. We decided on Coco. There's Philip, who's a ginger and white cat. He was really wild. He came in the house, in the front door at night. He followed some of the other cats in. Basically, I couldn't catch him in the house. He was living in the house, in the corridors, for several months because it was impossible to catch him. And then he went into a room one day, and so he started living in a few rooms that are connected. He went up the chimney once. It was really difficult. We just couldn't get near him. And eventually I managed to corner him one day and him to go in a cage, and had to take him to the vet. And I always have him tested for diseases, feline leukemia and FIV, which is like human HIV. Yeah, unfortunately, Philip was positive for FIV. That meant that he couldn't go back out again. He couldn't mix with the other cats because obviously they can transmit it. He's had to be an indoor cat since. You have to be careful if they get infections and things. And he recently got like an infection. It was actually found, the vet found that he had a massive heart murmur. So that meant a trip to Claremont to a specialist vet to have a ultrasound done of his heart. And unfortunately, he's got a serious heart condition, which he's now on medication for. It's human medication that has to be specially formulated for him because there isn't apparently a cat medication for it. So that's been a bit sad because basically he could live like for years with it if it stays the same. Or he could drop dead at any time really, and it could if it gets worse and starts deteriorating, well then that's not good because there's no actual cure. So that's really sad. And lastly, Black Cat. Well, he's been hanging around probably since last summer, and I couldn't really figure out how I was going to catch him because he was quite scared. He did start coming closer, and my cats can come in and out and get their food and everything. So he was actually coming in and getting food, so I knew he was being fed, but he kept causing all these fights literally every day. So when I eventually managed to catch him, like in the last video I said, I got him to the vets the same day, and they kept him overnight and did the operation new to him the next day, and they tested him for the diseases, and unfortunately he also has FIV, feline HIV. So that is another problem because I've had to keep him in, and he can't really be with Philip because I don't think that they would get on, and also there's more risk transmitting infections to each other and things like that. So basically Black Cat's now got to be kept in. He's had to be kept in separate from other cats. So that's really sad too, and it's really makes things really difficult for me because now I've got two of them indoors. And also the thing is that because he's been having all these fights with my cat, any of my cats could have FIV now. So I had to get all 6 outside cats tested for FIV because any of them could have contracted it. So that's the trouble that Black Cat's been causing.